And what's up? Welcome in GC Live Friday episode of the show. Wes Mitchell here, flying solo. Probably going to be an abbreviated edition of the show, but with so much going on, had to come in and chat with y'all. Make sure y'all are doing okay and keep you updated on what's going on in Gamecock Nation. Practice will be at 3:05 today, a little bit different schedule, so I'm going to have to give myself time to get out there. For those of you who are live right now, if you're listening on the podcast, it doesn't really affect you. Just will be a little bit shorter show. But those who are listening live, probably going to get in, get out, probably 2:30 or so, just so I can get out there. We will have live updates from South Carolina practice on this Friday afternoon. Again, this is GC Live. I am Wes Mitchell. And as always, this show is brought to you by our good friend Clint Hammond. Clint Hammond of the Mortgage Network right here in Columbia, South Carolina, in MLS number 71597. 803-771-6933 is the office phone. 803-422-6797 is the cell phone. And Hammond at mortgagenetwork.com is the way you can email Clint. Again, if you're in the market for a new home, maybe you just want to refinance, give Clint a shout. He'll help you save some money. Good buddy of mine and a great supporter, not only of GC Live, but of GamecockCentral.com and of the Gamecocks football program. What's up, y'all? Busy week. And by the way, hang tight for me for just a second. Our Twitter video stream, for some reason, is struggling right now. So if y'all give me 1 second, I think I can get this fixed. This is the beauty of live TV, live radio, live streaming, whatever the heck you want to call what we're doing. All right, I think we're good now. Hope y'all are well. Throw your questions in the chat. When I'm solo, I'd like to just let y'all shape the show, and then we'll go from there. Busy week so far. Obviously, the news with Prunty on Thursday entering the transfer portal, and then, of course, the news today, Jordan Rhodes hitting the transfer portal. So kind of a newsy finish to the week. Prunty, a situation, y'all, where as we have kind of tried to detail with as much tact as possible on GamecockCentral.com, you're never comfortable going into too much detail when you're talking about a kid's personal life, and you never want to cross that line. And while also trying to give people some details so that, A, they don't think it's a disciplinary reason that he's gone, because it absolutely is not. And B, so that people don't think it's a situation where a guy just sort of quits, because that's not this situation either. So I would just reiterate, it is a personal situation. Anytime you're talking about a kid and, possibly his personal health or something like that, all of that stuff should supersede football. Yes, a lot of times we all follow these guys as far as their football careers go. But ultimately, these are human beings first and foremost. These are many times kids. So I think the best scenario here with Prunty, we all just got to wish him well, send him as many positive vibes as possible, and send your thoughts, your prayers, whatever you believe as far as that stuff. Send all the good vibes to Prunty, because obviously he's going through some things, and it's a situation. It was kind of I would say up in the air for a while in the last maybe 5 days or so, what was going to happen with him. I think you could have seen him come back, miss some practices starting, dating back to this past weekend, or you could have seen him, do what he did, and that was go home and enter the portal. So he did officially enter the portal on Thursday, and I would imagine probably ends up, ending up somewhere closer back to home. Norfolk State has been a place that's been rumored, but certainly all the football side is minor compared to just, wishing the kid well and that he can get himself into a place where he feels comfortable. So again, Jordan Rhodes, the other news that breaks today here on Friday, that he is out. I don't have any details on that. Rhodes was working second team at right guard on the offensive line. Obviously, this is a kid that played in 2019. So, I think played in 10 games in 2019, was one of the guys that was on the field quite a bit in 2019. He opted out prior to 2020, you will remember, and then came back, was with the program towards the latter half of the year last year. Actually did play a little bit. I think was even practicing at defensive tackle by the end of the year. So he's moved around a little bit. And again, open part of practice earlier this week, he was working second team right guard. If I had more information, I would give it to you there, but I don't, so I won't speculate there. But as far as like how it affects the offensive line, certainly a kid, no sugarcoating, certainly a kid that at this point in time, based on what we saw, was not starting, but would have been, likely in some type of rotation, would have had a chance to help this program, would have had a chance to, at the very least, provide some depth on the offensive line. So that's sort of, I guess, the latest there. That's the latest on the roster side. Since we were last live on Wednesday, actually some good roster news for South Carolina. Isaiah Norris, JUCO cornerback transfer, officially got in. Beamer had said last week he was finishing up a class or classes and was still waiting to get in. He is officially in. He has reported. He is there, completely good to go, moved in. He's on the team. And there is a little bit of an acclimation period. The NCAA mandates that, where you can't just step out there and hit the field in pads and be good to go, be ready to roll. So there'll be a little bit of an acclimation period as far as what he can do in practice, but certainly getting him on campus, far better situation than not. And once he goes through his acclimation period, he will essentially, be out there and be eligible to play right away. I will say, I don't think we can put super high expectations on Norris. I don't think we can fairly put super high expectations on him right off the bat, because my mind goes back to Clayton White preseason at the golf tournament. Somebody asked him straight up, not about Norris, but just about players in general, how realistic is it to expect a guy who does not go through spring and then in this case does not go through summer to just come right in and play and make an impact? And Clayton White said, he was completely frank, completely honest. He said, look, it's very, very difficult. He joked that it's impossible and then sort of dialed it back a little bit. But yes, not easy to just come in, learn the defense, get acclimated to SEC ball, and get out there and play. So we're not going to put that expectation on Isaiah Norris to be the savior at cornerback. But this is a kid who's listed as a junior, but actually, due to COVID, technically should have 3 years of eligibility left. And I think will be someone that can help South Carolina in the future, maybe helps them as the year goes on, maybe provide some special teams depth this year, and then slowly becomes more and more a part of the program on the field. So that's, I guess, the latest on the roster right there. Again, practice 3:05 today. There should be a kind of a newsy couple of days coming up for you as well. For those of you who like to follow every little in and out of the program, which love the people that are into it like that. 3:05 today, again, practice. There's a walkthrough, plus we'll be out there for the first 4 sessions. So if there's anything of note, we will have that on GamecockCentral.com. And then on Saturday, this is when the start of camp or the portion of camp when you start to really get a feel for depth chart, for who's making a move, who maybe still has a ways to go, who maybe is in a better position to play a lot than we thought, because the pads just went on yesterday, and the first scrimmage for South Carolina, first preseason scrimmage of the Shane Beamer era, will be this Saturday. That starting at 3:15, and then Shane Beamer will be speaking to the media after that. So that will be the first time that Beamer has addressed the media since these roster moves, and really the first time since the pads have gone on, since they've gotten into the flow of preseason practice. So I would look out for that. I don't know, y'all, maybe 5:30 tomorrow. Dial it in, hop online, get it. There should be some interesting updates there from Shane Beamer on Saturday. That we don't always have breaking news or stuff like that on Saturdays, but this Saturday will be an interesting time for you to follow the program. Travis, glad you asked. We had the first question about the Gamecock kickoff party at Still Hands Brewing. What time is the party next weekend? The simple answer, Travis, is that it is 7 p.m. The complex answer is there are sort of layers to it. The actual on-stage part of the event begins at 7. Now, we'd love to have you come out before. Our friends from 107.5 The Game are going to be out there. I know starting at 4, maybe even before that, but certainly starting at 4 in the afternoon on Friday, August 20th, Still Hands Brewing. Come on out early. They'll be out there at 4. The VIP section opens at 5. And then Chris Clark and myself are going to be holding a little sort of informal Q&A at 6 o'clock in the VIP area. And that'll be under the tent. So come on out early, honestly, and hang out. It's going to be a very relaxed time. Then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have some speakers. Frankly, still working through some details on the exact timing of the speakers and who's going when. We're going to have a former player roundtable where some guys are going to just talk about their experiences at South Carolina. Preston Thorne, Langston Moore, former Gamecocks, as far as the Just the Chicken crew. They're going to be out there. They're going to give sort of a presentation. And then at 8:30, that will be when Patrick Davis and his Midnight Choir goes on, which is sort of the main event of the night, the concert. So, again, it is a free event, y'all. Would love to have everyone out there. Would love to have – there's a few VIP tickets left. Would love to have you in the VIP area as well. But either way, we just want to see you out there because if you come out and support this one, honestly, I think this is something that we have a chance to make be something we do annually, something that grows, something that becomes even bigger. The support, the reaction has been awesome, but I think once people see what this one's all about, it's only going to expand from here. Miss Lynn, not sure how many people will be in the VIP area yet. That's something we're still working through. All right. John Hunt has a question here, and I'm assuming you're not John Hunt that was South Carolina's offensive line coach when Steve Spurrier was here. But it is a good question. It's a question that I've seen quite a bit. And actually, you know what, y'all? Hang tight. Travis is asking where you can buy tickets. I'm going to go ahead and post for y'all. Even if you don't want VIP tickets, if you just want to go the free route, this link actually will provide a ton of details on the party, even if you're coming out for free. This site that I'm putting on the chat right now has all the information you're going to need about the party as far as timing of everything, where it's at, parking, free part, the VIP part, everything is right there in that link. So check that out. But okay. So Karan Prunty, the exit here. First of all, first question, and again, we're going to sort of move this forward to what it means for South Carolina's current football team. We certainly wish Karan Prunty all the best in what he is dealing with in his personal life. Moving it forward to South Carolina's football team, does South Carolina get the scholarship back? Yes. Now, the question with all these, anytime you're talking about a scholarship, you have two situations here, right? You have the 85 scholarship limit, which is everybody on scholarship on the team at any given point in time cannot go over 85. Then you have the 25 rule. That's called the initial counters. You can't bring in more than 25 scholarship players in any given class. So Prunty actually was going to count forward to the class of 2022. Same deal with Tyrese Ross, the other transfer that came in the summer. Well, because I assume it is because South Carolina never actually started classes this fall. I believe that's the reasoning. I don't know if that's truly the reasoning, but that's my guess. But I have confirmed that South Carolina will get that initial counter back. So they actually will be able to take one more prospect in that 2022 signing class than they had planned otherwise. Chad asked, does that free up 2 scholarships? If you bring Jordan Rhodes into the equation, Yes and no. Jordan Rhodes' departure has no impact whatsoever on the 25 limit, I should say. It has no impact whatsoever on the 25 because Jordan Rhodes has been here. He's been on your campus. He's actually a graduate transfer in the transfer portal. So no impact on the 25. It doesn't change how many prospects South Carolina can take in its upcoming class. Now, does it give you one more in the 85? Does it give you an opportunity if there's a walk-on who is out there and is just busting his tail and you want to give him a scholarship? Does it affect that? Yes, it gives you it gives you one more opportunity there to take someone. Someone else asked, would South Carolina be able to go back into the transfer portal? Technically, yes. Now, I don't know. I don't know what the cutoff is for the portal as far as when you can actually come in and play. That's one thing I do not have in front of me right now, and I think it'd be very difficult to look it up while I'm talking. But it would be really hard to find someone who could just at this late point in time who could just come in and play for you right away. So really, it's about who's on the roster right now. It's about who's ready to go play. It's about taking what you have and developing them and making the most of it. If you're talking about South Carolina's current group in the secondary, the open practice on Tuesday, you had Marcellus Dial working at first team corner, a kid that's really created some buzz. I would say. Has created some buzz dating back to the spring, dating back to when he first got here. The word for Marcellus Dial has always been that he's a really, really good athlete, was still learning the position, was still getting acclimated to SEC ball, getting acclimated to, to South Carolina's defense, all that normal stuff. But that the athleticism, the tools, so to speak, the skill set, so to speak, that all that was there. He's working again with the first team. Now, some of that is obviously Prunty was with the first team day one. Now Prunty's gone, and Cam Smith is still out hurt. I will say this. I think it is absolutely imperative that Cam Smith gets back healthy for South Carolina. He expects to be back for the first game, but it is imperative for that secondary for Cam Smith to get healthy and stay healthy. Opposite of Marcellus Dial, Darius Rush has been getting first team reps. And this is a kid that even before the Prunty exit, I've picked up some knowledge that he may be a sleeper to watch. This is a kid that has dealt with injuries for I don't want to say his entire career, but he has been banged up several times. And he's had to deal with what I would call this musical chairs of shuffling guys around in different positions, where you take a guy, make him a receiver, then you take a guy, you put him at corner, then you put him at safety, then you put him back at corner. And I just think it's very, very difficult to develop if you are getting moved around like that. Now, Darius Rush has had probably his best offseason since he was at South Carolina. Athletically, size, speed, he's always been a guy with a tremendous upside. But before all this had happened, I would have said he's going to be someone that could potentially surprise and provide some valuable depth at cornerback. Now that all this has happened, he is getting his opportunity. I think he looks as confident as I've ever seen him. He looks comfortable at cornerback. He actually trained in Atlanta with the same NFL and college trainer that J.C. Horn and Izzy McQuamu and Keenan Nelson Jr., for that matter, have trained with, and has put in the extra work at that position. So watch out for Darius Rush. Anytime you have a situation where a guy leaves or a guy goes down, like Cam Smith, who's injured right now, it creates an opportunity for somebody else. So look out for Darius Rush being that guy who has the opportunity to step up and see if he's ready to hold down a spot at cornerback. Another guy, you maybe look at Dominique Hill. He's working with the second team. He actually, I believe, was one of the starters at cornerback in the spring. And then Joey Hunter was the other guy working with the second team at cornerback at practice on Tuesday. So that's kind of where the depth chart is right now, y'all. If y'all want an update, I think David Spalding is sort of holding down the nickel spot. Carlin Platel is second string at nickel. Don't be surprised if Spalding surprises some people at nickel. I've heard he's actually had a really good start to camp and is kind of holding down that spot at nickelback. So, but yeah, there's no sugarcoating here. That position is a question mark. Somebody asked, are there positions where South Carolina doesn't have enough depth right now? Yes, there are several positions where South Carolina does not have enough depth right now. I don't know if the staff would say that publicly necessarily, or throw people under the bus or anything like that. But if you look at the roster, there's a reason why there was coaching turnover. There's a reason why there's a new coach in town. The roster is going to have to get better, y'all. That's part of it. Now, I would turn the question around. Where are the spots that you feel really good about right now as far as starters and depth? I think you start with running back, assuming Kevin Harris is back 100% or close to it and healthy. Running back and tight end. This offense is going to be built around the running backs and the tight ends. Defensive line, I'd probably put there. They have SEC depth, I believe. Still would like to see them as a unit, show they can stop the run a bit better. But yeah, as far as comparatively, the different position groups on the team, I'd throw defensive line into the positive category. I would throw offensive line, particularly with the starters, into the positive category where you feel pretty good about that unit. Would like to see them build a little bit more depth as the year goes on. And you lose some of that depth in Jordan Rhodes. So that one's probably right there in the middle as far as is it deep enough or not. But they do have a lot of bodies there, a lot of guys who I believe are talented and big enough and strong enough to play in the SEC. But then past that, I'm a huge Luke Doty fan. I believe the kid has a huge upside. I've been high on Luke since I think he was in 8th grade. So, but obviously there's inexperience at that position. So, there's still a battle behind Luke as far as the second team quarterback goes. And then you start to go down the list, and we've already talked about, these other positions that are question marks for South Carolina. Wide receiver will be a question mark until those guys go and prove it. Safety and now cornerback will be a question mark. Linebacker, probably a question mark as well. But the key there is for Brad Johnson and Shirai Green to stay healthy. Frankly, I actually think that Brad Johnson and Shirai Green, if healthy, will have a chance to surprise. But the key is staying healthy. So the problem with everything we're talking about is there are a lot of ifs. I've used the word if a lot. So clearly, you're going to need the ball to bounce your way many, many times for South Carolina to get into a big win total that would be categorized as a surprise season. But you do have some pieces to build around as well. So we shall see exactly where that goes. Trying to think, do y'all have any more questions or if there's any more news we need to hit on? Scrimmage tomorrow. As I said earlier, this is when things start to take shape. Defensive line, I really think that is a position where you're going to have some real competition, and the good kind of competition, not where guys are having, where it's because one guy just hasn't stepped up. I think you're going to have competition on the defensive front where it's because multiple guys are playing well. Tonka Hemingway potentially could push into a starting position, I think. You look at the edge spot, you'd imagine you'd have to project J.J. Enagbare as a starter, but does Jordan Birch push? Right now it's Aaron Sterling and J.J. Enagbare. Traditionally, coaches start out camp with the veterans in the starting spots. Looking ahead, can a Jordan Birch move into a starting spot at edge? Can a Jordan Strong, now that he's healthy, move into a starting spot? The movement starts when the pads go on and the scrimmages start. So we shall see. James wants to know, what are the odds of Quandre White moves to defense? James, I would say very, very small. If there are a ton of injuries and it's one of those things where South Carolina is just forced to do it, then, maybe. I will never rule anything out. I'm not one of these guys that's going to say never, no, not happening. But I really think they love what ZaQuandre brings to the offense. And I think they're going to need that help on offense. I think they're going to need that depth at running back. Even if Kevin Harris is cleared and 100% by game 1, which is the current projection, you really you can't just throw him out there and expect him to carry the football 30 times in a game and just be ready to do that. Not that you would want to anyway, with the depth that South Carolina has at running back. And now Juju McDowell may be building as much as much buzz as anybody else as far as newcomers go. Juju McDowell's name pops up whenever you ask anybody around the program, in the program, who's the guy to watch? Who's the newcomer to watch? Juju McDowell is the guy that pops up. So you're talking about more and more depth at a position that already had depth. So, I think you've got to get all those guys on the field. McDowell has a chance to be a kickoff returner. He has a chance to help on offense. Ultimately, I believe this system will be built around South Carolina's tight ends, South Carolina's running backs, the running game itself, and then using what you get out of the running game to try and establish some opportunities down the field in the passing game. As far as specifics and routes and route combos and all that stuff, still very, very hard to tell exactly what the bread and butter of South Carolina's passing game will be. But I think that's, if you want a big picture thought so far on what this offense is going to look like, it's going to heavily involve the position groups that I talked about. Rob Profit just mentioned Jaheim Bell. I think if there's a guy on this roster, again, I've said it before, I think we talked about it earlier this week, if there's a guy on this roster that is sort of in place for a breakout and is in place to, be a household name by the end of the year and will be a huge part of this offense, I think it's Jaheim Bell. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of formations that could be deemed as two tight ends based on personnel, but it really just depends on what do you count Jaheim Bell as? What do you count E.J. Jenkins as? Both those guys are in the tight end room, but both those guys I would imagine would be flexed out, playing sort of a slot role. At times, E.J. Jenkins will probably be flexed all the way out, playing an outside receiver role. And that's sort of, I believe, if they're going to build this offense around their strengths, which is what they've talked about and is what they're going to have to do, that is the expectation that I would have for how South Carolina's offense will be built here in 2021. Is that necessarily the offense they want to run ultimately? Is that necessarily the offense that it's going to be in 3 or 4 years? Maybe not. Probably not, because I think Justin Stepp will get the wide receiving core to where it needs to be. But as far as right now, I think that's where the strengths are. And if those other guys can take the pressure off of the passing game, it opens up opportunities for a DeCarrion Joyner, a Jalen Brooks, a Josh Vann. I think those are the first 3 receivers who get a shot out there. Xavier Legette, forgotten man at receiver. I've heard a little bit about Legette maybe creating a little bit of buzz here lately. So maybe a guy to keep an eye on at wide receiver. But all right, y'all. As I said, abbreviated show today. I've got to get out to practice. But if you are a Gamecock Central subscriber, head on over to Gamecock Central in about 30 minutes. We'll have live updates from practice. And then, of course, we'll have updates from Shane Beamer when he speaks to the media Saturday around 5-something. And then we'll obviously have practice observations at some point, probably a little video on our YouTube as well after the day's practice. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Sorry again for the abbreviated version, but with so much going on, wanted to hop on, check in with y'all, talk a little ball. I'm Wes Mitchell. Head on over to GamecockCentral.com. And until then, I'll see you all on Monday.